G'day folks, welcome to another edition of Talking SANFL. Great to have your company this week. Very special guest this week as well from the Sturt Footy Club. It's Will Coombs.
Good to be here. Thanks, Hazy.
Thanks for jumping on board, mate. I wish it was through probably happier circumstances. It wasn't a great result on the weekend, but plenty to learn from it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly right. It's obviously disappointing. It was probably the hardest loss of the season. We were very competitive against them last time. Up by probably 30 odd at stages in that game, and unfortunately managed to lose grasp on it. But on the weekend as well, we unfortunately weren't quite up to scratch at all, and it's very disappointing. We had not really excusably, but we had a few injuries early, and I think we never really came back from there.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, mate. We'll have to take a deeper dive into it a little bit later on. But we will thank our sponsors as well. Of course, I Perform Sports Injury Clinic are the good guys down there. Brad Bain, get around them. And Top Sport, want to bet on the SANFL? Get more markets and top odds with Top Sport. Top that. Quickly as well, Will, take us through your journey now. 4 years playing league footy. It's been a bit of a rapid rise, but take us through from where you've come from to get to the Sturt Footy Club.
I was a bit of an unorthodox start. Played soccer and basketball as a junior, and never really touched the footy too much. Bit in the schoolyard, and then year 8 I went to school footy, basically because my mates wanted me to play with them. And then got seen at a couple of the Sturt tryout days in 15s and 16s, and kind of hung around since then. And came up through the juniors, and I've just been hanging around like a bad smell. I was definitely on the back end of the lists for a lot of time, and was missing out on finals teams and things like that. So stuck around, knew I would come good eventually, and debuted in 2019 under Nathan Grimer, and he gave me the opportunity that I was looking for quite a while. And played a lot of reserves 2020, but came through again once Marty Matner came back, and played quite a few games since, and I feel like I'm getting better every week.
Oh, you definitely are, mate. Persistence paid off for yourself and for the footy club. I was telling you just before, I watched the game you played against Norwood at the Parade on Friday night last year, where it was just raining almost sideways. It was that torrential, and it was just dry for you. It was one of your best games. So I feel like we really started talking about you after that. So much so, you played state footy this year. What was that like?
Amazing. It happened. I was speaking to Vossi, speaking to a few others. It was probably, and my defensive coach, it was probably a goal for the next 2-3 years. But it came out of the blue for me, really, and I think it was due to a pretty good finish to last year and a good start to this year, and it was even better going to do it with Vossi, one of my best mates at the club, who I've come through with ever since he came in under 18. So it was an amazing experience. Just
a word on Vossi as well. I guess from a SANFL perspective, I suppose we're feeling pretty lucky that he's still in the league.
Yeah, I think we're pretty happy. Obviously very disappointing. He's one of the best players I've played with, and he sees the ball like no one else does, and unfortunately he's been copping quite a few heavy tags, which is expected the last few weeks, but he's working through it, and he's playing some really good footy. So disappointing he didn't go, but little sigh of relief for, I think, the Sturt supporter base more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's get stuck into it. We're right in the guts of the split round. Let's talk about the reserves for this week. So 2 games, 2 wins. Sturt got the job done against the Bays by 7 points, and the Roosters got the job done against the Panthers down at Noarlunga. Sturt sitting on top of the ladder in the reserves. Yep. Take us through it. There's obviously a lot to like about a few blokes coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to you before. Ever since I've kind of been at the club, we've had a really, really strong, even contribution reserve side, which is really good. And we, as a club, pride ourselves on 1 in, 1 out, and vice versa when it comes to the league and reserves teams. So we've always got people ready to hop into a position no matter what, and the effect that someone coming in or out of the team is very minimal. We've got a lot of people knocking the door down, which is always helpful, especially with a few injuries and selection changes.
I think that's probably the best possible answer you could have given that it means everyone's on the same page, same game plan. If one soldier goes down, another one just comes in and fits in seamlessly. I know the Eagles do it really well. The Dogs back in the day when they win premierships, that's what the mentality was, and there's clearly that sort of theme again with Marty Matner and Sturt.
Yes, exactly right. He's driven that, and he's loved the one club approach that he brought back in 2016 when he did come to the club. for the first time, we're playing the same game plan, whether it's the under 13 girls or boys or the league team. So yeah, it's working really well and it's shown through success.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into the league results. So there were 3 games on the weekend. We won't go in order. We'll start with your game, Will. We'll get it out of the way. We'll rip off the Band-Aid. So a tough loss against the Bays down there. Take us through it. Was this, I suppose, not a wake-up call, but is this an indication of where you guys are at, or just a bad day?
I think
both.
I think it is a combination of both, because we really do have the belief that we have the ability to play against the top sides and compete and win. It was very disappointing. We had a chat at halftime and full time about where we were at in the game and then where we were at in the season after the game. And at the point in time, we're middle of the rung, and we know that, and we've struggled against teams above us, and we just need to find out what we can do to get better, really. Yeah.
From your view, what makes the Bays so good, and what are their real strengths?
Just their ability to score in patches and bunches. Sorry, they showed it last time against us down at Unley that they can score 4 or 5 goals on the trot if you're not careful. You've got to be so careful in how you approach them, and you can't fight fire with fire. You've got to kill it at the source if they do get on one of those runs, and I think that's probably their most dangerous attribute. And their 3-4 prong forward line as a defender, you notice how good it is.
That's tough. Yeah. What's it like cruising around there when you're looking over there, it's McBain, you're looking over there, it's Hosey. Who do you go to? How do you stop it?
Oh, Hosey's running me off my feet, and McBain's leaning up on Luke, and it's always tough, but we are good enough to beat them, and we did show that, and we pride ourselves on being one of the stingiest defences in the SANFL, but unfortunately in these losses we've been a bit hemorrhagy.
Just before we move on, looked like a really nice crowd too.
It was good, yeah. Good for a public holiday. It's always good down there. Was lucky enough to debut on a Good Friday down there. It's always quite a few people, which is really good.
Yep, outstanding. All right, next game, Port Adelaide played at the Ponderosa. As expected, got the job done, although the Dogs did put up quite a fight. So for Port Adelaide, Sutcliffe had 27, Mead 24. The goals, and arguably the best player on the ground, was Mitch Georgiades with 3. And Bryn Teakle, who played his first game after coming across from the Waffling mid-season draft, kicked 3 goals. At one stage was giving it to the crowd, all sorts of things. So he is just falling into line beautifully. Think about Port Adelaide, and I'd love to get your thoughts on how you guys view someone like a Port Adelaide. It feels like each and every week it's a different beast. I'd imagine it'd be hard to sort of go with matchups or what to expect each and every week.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I missed the Port Adelaide game through COVID, which was disappointing because I really enjoy playing against those boys, especially those AFL listed guys. But I think it's been the theme with the Crows and the Port. Crows are usually a bit more consistent with their matchups and their depth throughout the list. But Port's always, one week you've got Charlie Dixon playing. Yep. One week I remember playing a couple of years ago. It was Ollie Wines, Charlie Dixon, and Rockcliffe, which is just insane. So
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, so it is different with them, and it's tough. You've always got to respect them, no matter how well or poorly they're going. Yep. So yeah.
I mean, we'll probably have to wait and see what happens this week, but you'd expect probably no Georgiades, probably no Dersma if he's a straight swap for Jamont. I know there's talk about what would happen with Bryn Teakle, and Sam Hayes is pushing, so their side's going to get juggled around as well. Big result out at Noarlunga. South Adelaide got the job done against North, and they would have gone in as underdogs. North Adelaide, before this weekend, absolutely ranked the #1 side for a reason, but South Adelaide, when they put it together, they can play some really good footy, and this was one of those games where, I wouldn't say season defining, but really important in the context of their season.
Exactly right. It's good for the league, I think, with stopping that freight train that was north for a while there. I think it's kind of spread the ladder out now a bit more, and it's good to see South because they've had a couple of games when they definitely could have won quite easily, but have just lost grasp. But it was a really good win by South, and it's good to see.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's have a look at the ladder. So North still stay on top, but they are even for wins with Glenelg now. So they were a win clear before, but now it's just sort of tightening up with the top 2, followed by the Crows, the Eagles, and then you guys are sitting at 5th. and then South Adelaide and Norwood, who are absolutely going to push for a spot in the top 5 as well. So it really is up for grabs, a spot in the top 5. It must be exciting across the league.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's good to see the league so even. You don't really have those outliers at the top, or there's a really good even spread amongst the middle, and everyone's kind of getting an opportunity at this stage, and it shows how important a game for us against Norwood next week is, because it could really shuffle a few spots there.
Each and every week it seems like there's some really important matchups, and we're only pretty much at the midway point of the season. All right, back in a second. Right now, let's get straight to the bunker with men's.
Yes, hello and welcome to another edition of The Bunker. This week's edition is on the power rankings. So we're going to chuck last month's power rankings up on screen right now and take a look at which teams were in which positions. And as you can see there, West Adelaide obviously at number 10. If we go all the way up to the top, we have Sturt at number 1. North Adelaide was obviously number 2, with Adelaide coming in at number 3. So let's move to this month's power rankings. Let's find out where these teams are ranked overall, not just on the table, but how they are actually going. So let's move into this month's power rankings and start with number 10. At number 10, it is West Adelaide, and it was hard to put them anywhere else. They have lost, unfortunately, 22 games on the trot now. They're 0-9 this season. They're number 10 in defence and number 9 in offence. However, their last month has been better. There's signs that that win might be coming sooner rather than later. They lost by 24 points to Port, they lost by 30 to South, and just 5 points to Glenelg. So they are starting to make some improvements, and hopefully that first win for West Adelaide fans is just around the corner. As we move to number 9. No real surprises here at number 9. It's Central Districts. They are 1-8. They are the number 10 team in offence, the number 9 team in defence. So it's a pretty obvious bottom 2. The issue with Centrals is they can't kick a score at the moment. They're averaging 58 points a game for, which is alarming. It's not going to win you many footy games, and so that's why they come in at number 9. As we move to number 8, it is Port Adelaide, who were number 8 in last month's power rankings. They have put together some better footy. They're 3-6, their record is. And we know that they're much better with a healthier AFL list. So they're getting the job done against the teams below them, and they're competing against the teams above them, but haven't quite made that next step yet to contend for finals this season. At number 7, it's Norwood. So Norwood's got a 4-5 record. They probably deserve to be higher than number 7. Their offense is ranked number 7 in the comp, but their defense is number 3 in the competition. So they are stingy. They're making it hard for teams to kick a score against them. They've been in nearly every game they've played, and they've got it done against the teams below them. A little bit like Port Adelaide, but they just haven't been able to get it done against the teams that are above them. So the top 6 that are higher than them on this list, the only team that they've got the job done against is Adelaide, and so they're going to need to get those games that are close margins, that are close losses. They're going to have to swing those in their favour and get a few more wins to jump up the table on our rankings. At number 6, it is Sturt. So Sturt is the biggest faller in these rankings. They were number 1 last month. They had fallen down to number 6. Now, there's a massive fall in a month of footy. And the reason being is they probably hadn't played teams at the top of the table at the start of the season. The last month, they played the top 4 sides. So they played North, Glenelg, Adelaide, and the Eagles. And they've gone 1-3 in that time. They were number 1 in the comp at defence, and they've now dropped down to number 6 in the comp. They used to be giving up 56 points a game. It's now 70 points a game, so it's alarming for Sturt. They have dropped to 6-4, and they dropped to number 6 in our power rankings. At number 5, it is South Adelaide. They're up to 5-5 on the win-loss ledger. They're number 5 in offence, number 5 in defence. They lost by a point to Eagles a fortnight ago, and they beat North Adelaide, the top team, by 2 points. So it shows that their best is clearly good enough, but with that 5-5 record, it probably sums up their year so far. It has been patchy. Their good is good, but their bad has not been so good, and so they're going to need to find a bit more consistency as this season progresses. At number 4, it is the Adelaide Crows. They are sitting with a 6-3 record. They were number 3 on our rankings last time. We all know that they are very AFL player dependent, just like Port Adelaide. A few weeks ago, they had 18 listed players come out and played an incredible game against us Eagles and won. And then the next week, they had 11 listed players. So they're going to be up and down with consistency off the back of that. They are still number one in the comp for offense though. They are as potent as any team in the comp. They're averaging 96 points a game, which is elite. At number 3, it is the Woodville West Torrens Football Club. They are 6-3 their record. Their offense is only number 6 best in the comp, but their defense is the number 1 best team in the competition. And that's where they've really improved of late. They're averaging just 63 points a game against. So their defense is getting much tighter back there, but also the list is getting much healthier. We see Jared Redding coming back in, Clay Cameron's come back in. There's a number of guys who have missed plenty of footy. Troy Menzel's come back in that are starting to really help this team and put them back up towards the top of the ladder. As we move to the top 2, and at number 2 it is Glenelg. They were previously 4 on our power rankings. They have an 8-2 win-loss record. They're number 3 in offense and number 4 in defense. We saw them just get over the line against West Adelaide a couple of weeks ago and then thump Sturt on the weekend. So it's hard to move them any lower than the top 2 because their losing margin this year from their 2 games is only 5 points total. As we move to the number 1 team in the comp, it is North Adelaide, and they were previously ranked number 2. They now are number 1, and might come as a surprise straight off a loss on the weekend, a 2-point loss to South Adelaide. However, they are number 2 in offense, they're number 2 in defense, and if you look at their next month coming, they've got Centrals, Port Adelaide, Norwood, and Adelaide. So those are the teams to come. All very winnable games. Could easily win 4 in a row there and go to a 12-2 record. They're number 2 in offense and number 2 in defense, which shows they're very consistent across the park, and their midfield has been dominant with Harvey in the ruck, with Harrison Wigg, Campbell Coombe, Aaron Young. They are the most dominant midfield in the comp at the moment, and it's the reason why North Adelaide are number 1 in our power rankings. There we have it, the 10-1 in our SANFL power rankings. Tune in next week as we go back to the quiz.
Good stuff. A very nice version there of the bunker. Will, you're the best man to ask about this. Some interesting statistics that Men's just rolled through as well, and you touched on it a little bit earlier as well. You've gone from what number 1 in defence to number 6 off the back of a nice stingy 56 points per game to 70. Is there issues down back?
No, we can't say that. We can't say that. Definitely not.
How do you fix it? How do you fix it?
Yeah.
Is there a theme at the moment?
I think there's not as much pointing fingers at lines or forwards, midfields issues.
Yep.
I think it's definitely a 18, 22-man process that we've got going on now, and as a club we've always pride ourselves on being stingy and not giving up scores at all, and that's how we win games. We don't score heavy, and we never really have, and that's the issue at the moment, and it's a flow-on effect from the forwards and the midfielders and then to us, and obviously the backies, we have our day and we don't have a good day sometimes, and we can go into our shell and play one-on-one D, which you don't really want to see very often, but it's a full club thing at the moment, and we're trying to fix it.
Mate, and I'm a defender by heart as well, so I'd never just blame it on the backs. If there's an issue down back, it's because it's coming in too clean from the midfield, and the midfield will blame the forward. So you're right, it's a completely team thing. Let's have a look at the games coming up this week. Of course, thanks to Top Sport. Here are some odds coming across your screen right now. So 3 games this weekend, and we'll kick it off with the Eagles taking on the Dogs. That's going to be at Mornteam Oval, Mornteam Kia Oval on Saturday at 1 o'clock. So I want to say the Bulldogs would give it a crack, but to beat the Eagles on their home deck, right in the middle of what's going to be a tough day for the Dogs, I just can't see it happening.
Great. Yeah, I have to agree with you, especially it's always tough to play down at Mornteam Kia Oval. It is down at Oval Avenue, it's always a tough ask, but depending on how that oval holds up, you never know what could happen, to be honest.
How does, and on that as well, how does Unley Oval go after a few sloppy days?
Oh, it didn't pull up well. We've had quite a few numbers on the track with the women and the 16s and the 18s, especially the 16s with their full season now. But luckily, I don't think the league are going to have a game there for 4 weeks since our last home game. So hopefully the pitch can dry up a bit, but we'll be trying to keep up with as much as possible at training.
You do it each and every year, every single Oval. We sit there pre-season, first few rounds, and say, this is just heaven. How could this possibly get bogged up? And then 1 or 2 games, and it's just an absolute pigsty. All right, next game is the Bloods taking on the Crows. Of course, that will be at Hisense Stadium. The Bloods look like they're pushing, that they're getting close for a win, and they might be, but unfortunately for them, the Crows will get some serious additions this weekend. So Butts will come back into the AFL side. Luke Brown probably comes back in. Josh Rochelle. There's going to be some good players to come back on the SANFL side, and that's what you get with the Crows, an inconsistent lineup, depending on selection in the AFL.
Yeah, exactly right. As we touched on before with Port, you never know what you're going to get, and sometimes you can get lucky, quote unquote, if you get right with scheduling or if they have to hold players back. But you've just got to go up against what you get on the day. And as you said with West, I've watched the last couple of games and they're looking better every week, and it's really good to see.
Exactly what you just said about the Crows, we can say the same for this next game. Port Adelaide taking on the Redlegs. We'll have to wait and see what sort of lineup Port Adelaide get, depending on AFL selection. But the Redlegs would go into this, and you feel like they'd almost treat this as a mini grand final.
That's it. We saw where they were sitting on the ladder before, and they've got to obviously win a lot more games than they lose over the next 8. And if they're going to slot into that 4th spot, this is where they're going to start.
I'd like to hope as well that rivalry is still there, Port Adelaide v Norwood. It's one of the best rivalries in all of football. So Sunday, it's 1:10 at Alberton Oval. If you've got nothing to do, make sure you go down there and check that out. All right, let's get back to men's in the Eliminator.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Top Sport Eliminator, the SANFL betting partner. Want to bet on the SANFL, get more markets and top odds with Top Sport, top that. Now, as we look at the Eliminator, we have another winner. It is back-to-back wins for the celebrity pick. I went with North Adelaide on the weekend, got knocked out. Hazy obviously knocked out a couple of weeks ago. So our celebrity pick, who went with Port Adelaide, got it done against the Centrals on the weekend. And so back-to-back wins, what it means is the Celeb Pick wins a cotton merch pack, and a $100 voucher is going to be going the way of the Celebrity Pick sponsor, which is Blue Sky Mobility. So a little merch pack for Blue Sky Mobility and a little voucher there. Congratulations to them. We'll be back next week with the Eliminator, so tune in then. Now it's time for Hazy's Multi.
Good stuff, men's. All right, well, time to get into my multi. So thanks to Top Sport, the good guys there, we get a $100 bonus bet each and every week. Form's been a little bit scratchy, somewhat inconsistent, 1 from 2 last week, so I need some redemption here. So you tell me what you think about this one, all right? I know I probably can't even bet, but just give me a nudge if I'm really going down the wrong direction or whatever. I'm going to take the Eagles over Centrals. I'm going to take the Crows over the Bloods, and I'm going to make it a 3-way bet. I'm going to take the Redlegs over Port Adelaide because I think Port Adelaide are going to miss some talent going straight to the AFL, and the Redlegs will be really fired up for this one. So we've got Eagles, Crows, Redlegs.
I like it. It's a safe bet. Safe bet.
Safe bet.
Danger game probably Port Norwood because you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. Hopefully you can go 3 from 3.
Very, very good. Hopefully as well, because it's for a very good campaign, the Hospital Research Foundation group, of course, who fund world-leading medical research and patient care services in all public hospitals and communities in South Australia. So to get involved, hopefully this gets up, but you can make a donation as well. Just Google Hospital Research Foundation. That is it for us. Will, you've got the weekend off. What's on?
Not much really. I think going to get the rest because unfortunately haven't had a rest. Played the state game during the bye, which is obviously amazing, but well-deserved rest, I think, for myself and Bossy.
Very good. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks' time, you guys can bounce back and get back on the winners list. We'll catch you this time next week. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Talking SANFL, and if you get an opportunity, make sure you go down and see some local footy.